Welcome back to If Adoptive Mama Ain't Happy. I'm so glad that you are joining me today. I wanted to talk to you about some things that you may want to avoid saying to your adopted child. There are some things that people may think are, innocuous or true, but they can be insensitive and really hurt an adopted child's feelings. So one of the things that you want to avoid saying as an adoptive parent is something along the lines of, "You're so lucky we adopted you," or "You should be so grateful that we adopted you." So what's the problem with saying this? Well, the child may not feel lucky. They may not feel fortunate. They may not feel grateful for being adopted. Now, that may make you, think that they are that they shouldn't feel that way. But a child who is separated from their biological family is going to experience grieving. They're going to experience pain. They're going to experience crises, and a lot of them having to do with an identity or lack of identity. So yes, they're going to create a new identity with you as their family, but they may not always feel grateful or lucky that they were separated from their biological family. So please refrain again from saying things like, "You're so lucky we adopted you," or "You should be grateful that you were adopted." That also assumes that, they're not good enough, and that, the fact that you chose them, they should be grateful that somebody, lowered themselves to adopt them. I know you do not feel that way and you would never say it like that, but no matter how nicely you may say it, they may perceive it that way. So just be careful with your language about being fortunate, being lucky, being grateful for being adopted. Because again, children who are separated from their biological families may not feel lucky. They may not feel fortunate or grateful. So validate those very understandable feelings that they may have: the grief, the loss, the confusion, just lack of knowledge of where they came from. Another thing that you want to avoid is saying things like, "You look different from us. You are very different from us." Comparing their looks to your looks or to their siblings' looks. In fact, you don't want to ever compare them to biological children who happen to be their siblings, because you don't want to make them feel even more different than they do already, being adopted, not being a biological child. So don't compare them to their siblings. It's not good to do with even just all biological kids, but especially with adopted children. They're going to be more sensitive to comparisons and things like that. So, don't compare, our biological child has our blonde hair and blue eyes, and you have, dark hair and dark eyes. They know what they look like. They've seen themselves in the mirror. They know that they look different. So instead, validate how they may feel different. You can say something like, "It must be really hard to feel like you don't fit in the family because you look different. That must be really, really sad for you and confusing for you, especially if people ask you questions about why you don't look like us." So something like that, if it comes up, that's a way to validate their feelings, letting them understand that it's normal to feel sad about that or to feel offended by somebody talking about why they look different from the rest of their family. Another thing that you want to avoid is, "We chose you because we couldn't have our own children." So obviously that's not a good thing to say, because they are your child. They are your own children. So it makes it seem like, oh, you were, a consolation prize. You weren't quite as good as having our own biological child. So we chose you because we couldn't have our own children. So again, it's really insensitive. And I don't think y'all would ever say that. But, somebody who's looking to adopt may not know that some of these things could be really hurtful. So I just encourage you to just be as sensitive as possible when talking to your adopted child about being adopted. So we don't want to ever make the child feel like their second choice because they were adopted. So I've given you some things not to say. So here are some things that can make it easier to talk to your adopted child and be sensitive to their to their feelings. One of them is you want to affirm their identity. You want to use language that affirms their identity within the family and reassures them of their important place in the family, that the family would not be the same without them. Make them understand that they are special, they are loved, and they are 100% a part of your family, no matter what, no matter how they came to you. They are 100% welcome and a part of your family. You also want to be honest with them, but gentle. Of course, they're going to ask questions about their birth family. You don't want to lie to them. You may have to tell them some unsavory things about their adoptive parents, perhaps if they, were, had legal problems, had drug or substance use issues. You may have to be honest about that, but you can do it in a gentle way. You can say something like, and of course it depends on their age. Yeah, your biological mom, had a really hard time with mental illness, and she used drugs to help herself feel better, and it made her even more sick. Say it like that, and say it in a sensitive way, because, people use substances and become addicted to drugs because of, difficulties in their life. So you can be honest with the child saying, your birth parents just had a really hard time and they weren't able to give you the life that they wanted to give you, the life that you deserved. So you want to, discuss their adoption story honestly, but you want to do it with tact, and you want to make sure that you're mindful of their feelings the whole time that you're talking to them. Another thing that is so, so important is encourage open communication. You want to be the safe place for them to talk about anything having to do with their adoption. You want to be the ones that they ask questions of. You want to make sure that they feel comfortable asking you questions about their birth family, or why they were adopted, or why they look different from you, those kinds of things. The more open you are, the more safe they're going to feel. So try not to ever shut them down when they ask you about the adoption. And please don't shut down their feelings if, like I said earlier, if they don't feel grateful. If they do feel sad on Christmas Day because they miss their biological mom, or they wonder, where's my biological family right now? Where are my biological brothers and sisters? They are going to wonder about those things, and it's not wrong. And I want you to encourage them to open up about their feelings, whatever they are. Validate sadness, validate confusion, validate, ungratefulness, validate all of their feelings, because they are important. And again, they're going to feel safe to come to you. They're going to trust you if you, instead of shutting down any kind of negative feelings they have about adoption, you validate them instead, normalize them, and say, yeah, I get it. I understand why you would feel that way. So that's it for today. Just a short little encouragement of what not to say and what to say to your adopted child. Before you go, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or you can subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would love to hear what you guys think about this podcast, because I want it to be for you. I want it to help you. And if there's things that I'm not doing well that I can do better, I would love to know. But I'd also like to know what you enjoy about it, so I can keep giving you content that you really, really enjoy. Also, I want to invite you to check out the website, www.faithful-futures.com. You can sign up for my email list there, where you'll get notifications of when my coaching course for adoptive parents is coming out. There's also a Facebook group link there. I have a wonderful group for Christian adoptive moms. So you can, if you go to the website, just click there and it'll take you right to that Facebook group. But I just really want to thank you so much for answering the call to adopt. Jesus loves you, and so do I.